Hi everyone, I'm Meredith and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so excited you found me, and if you're returning, I'm so grateful you've decided to come back and watch more. Usually my channel's about luxury in terms of luxury handbags, luxury shoes, luxury lifestyle and vlogging. I do some travel though, and today's video is all about, is Disney a luxury cruise? Can it be a luxury cruise? Well, my friends, the answer is yes, and I'm as surprised as anybody by that. But today I'm going to cover the Disney cruise that I did with my two children here in Australia, and how I found it to be luxurious and how I was really surprised by that. Now, I will preface this video with saying there are not a lot of footage of the actual boat itself, simply because I didn't expect it to be a luxury experience. So by the time I realized it was and that I would actually make a video about this, we were already home. I do have some video of our cabin, which I will most certainly show you, but it was such a shock to me to have such a high level of service on a cruise line which is made for families and children. And yeah, I was so impressed with it. So I really wanted to do a video around it. So my two children and I and my parents embarked on a 3-night cruise with the Disney Cruise Line on the Disney Wonder ship here in Australia. It left from Sydney and we did 3 nights. It did do a very short stop at a place called Eden, which is on the south coast of New South Wales. But we chose not to get off, and to be fair, most people on the boat did not get off. There's not a lot to do in Eden. It was kind of a pointless thing for us to even dock. But it was certainly a great way to do a tester. Now, this is Disney's very first foray into the Australian markets, the first time we've ever had Disney cruises in Australia. So they were very, very popular, and they are coming back for the 2025 cruising summer season. So that's great to see, and it will be the Disney Wonder again. And then I am told that the following season, the 25-26 season, we are getting a different cruise ship from Disney, a bigger one, because they've realized that Australians are actually really interested in this. So I thought I'd start with the tour of our cabin. So my children and I were in a 2-bedroom cabin. It's the highest level of cabin you can get without going into one of the 2 named suites. So there are 2 suites on board which have names. I think it's the Mickey Mouse and the Walt Disney and there's something else. There's 2 of them, and then our 2-bedroom cabin was the level below that. I didn't do the higher level named cabin for the simple fact that it came with a media room that we weren't ever going to use. We're barely in the room, and the first and second bedrooms are further apart. My children are aged 5. Well, at the time of going, they were aged 5 and 6. No, 5 and 7. 5 and 7. My son had just turned 7 on New Year's Eve, and we left just after New Year's Eve. So my children were aged 5 and 7 for this cruise. So they're not little, but I still need to be able to hear them if they cry out in the middle of the night, and given the amount of crap they ate on the cruise, you want to be able to hear if they're throwing up. So I didn't want to be that far from them. I certainly see how those suites will work as my children get older, and they don't necessarily want to share a room anymore, because they were single beds, and my children are going to be very, very tall. My husband is very, very tall. So I think that's certainly something I will look at as they transition into maybe wanting some more space or needing a bigger bed, because that media room can be made up as a 3rd bedroom. So essentially you end up with a 3-bedroom suite. And I certainly see the advantages that as my children get older, but for now the 2-bedroom worked for us just fine. They absolutely have lower levels of cabins that can accommodate big families in one room with bunk beds, above lounges, and they've got all sorts of configurations. So everybody's catered for. I just like the space, and yeah, that's just how we chose to travel. My parents were, I think, 3 doors down from us in a 1-bedroom suite, and that was great to see as well. I don't have footage of their suite, but it was interesting to compare the 2-bedroom to the 1-bedroom. So I'll insert the footage I have of my room here so you can see it. So welcome to a 2-bedroom suite on the Disney Wonder. So we've just arrived and we walk down this hallway, and the first thing we find is the 2nd bedroom. So this is my kids' bedroom. You can see that they've made 2 beds for us. So we'll come in. There's a TV there and some storage. And then a bedroom, so a bed there, another one over here. And if you have a 3rd child, there is a pull-down bed just here that they can pull down for you. I've just unpacked into their wardrobes. So this is their walk-in robe. We go through, and this is the bathroom. It's beautiful. So they've got a sink, and then there's a toilet and a shower. It's beautiful. And then if we come back out, we go back out this door. So this is a coat closet. So it's just a coat closet where you can hang more stuff. And then this door here is a powder room. So a little powder room. Hi. And then we've got TV on the wall there. We walk through. This is our lounge and dining room. So there's the lounge. There's a balcony out there. We'll go out in a second. And this is the dining room. So we come through here. We're still in Port in Sydney, and this is our balcony. You can see Sydney, and pan around. There's the Anzac Bridge. We come back through here. We have a wet bar, so a little sink, and I think this has got the fridge in it. Yep, there's the fridge, and they stock that for us with drinks. Diet Coke! I'm excited. And this is my room through here, so I haven't unpacked yet. And I've got a king size bed all to myself. And there's a TV there. I also have access onto the balcony over there. And you can see lots of power. It's all American, so I brought adapters with me. This is my vanity area where I can do my makeup, which is awesome. And my walk-in robe, which is huge. And I have a in-room safe just here. This is huge, considering I'm on a boat. And if we come back through here, this is my bathroom. So I've got a double sink. I've got a bath. I think I'm gonna have a bath. And there's my toilet and my shower. This is so nice. I am so excited. So that was our room on the Disney Wonder, and it was a 2-bedroom suite. So what I was told while I was on the boat was that that ship had gone to dry dock the previous October to us going, and 10 rooms had been upgraded, and ours was one of them. So ours was very new. My parents' bedroom, which was a 1-bedroom suite, which was a few doors down from us, hadn't been renovated yet. So it was still the older wood style. I had done research before I got on the boat and found my exact room, and we were room 8016 on the Disney Wonder. I had found my tour of this exact room that somebody else had put up on YouTube, and it was in the same style to my parents. It was all the wood paneling and the older style. So when I walked into my room, I went, oh, it's been upgraded. This is great. The bathroom's beautiful. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so they've done an upgrade. But they are slowly working their way through the whole boat, I believe. But at the moment, they had only done those 10 rooms. So with that room, we were on a concierge level, which meant we had access to the concierge service, which brought with it a whole heap of extras, which made it quite luxurious for us. So we had priority boarding. We had priority disembarkment. There was always someone there. There's a concierge suite where you can go. There's food constantly out for you. So you get this list and it's like, okay, so on Disney, like on any ship, I think you can eat all day if you want. So they do breakfast, they do lunch, they do dinner, plus you can get food from the little cafes around the boat on at any time. But up in the concierge level suite, there is also like we do morning tea, and then we do snacks in between, then we do afternoon tea, and then we do pre-dinner food. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much food. So anytime I went in there, my kids are like, oh, this is great. We're just going to help ourselves. That was fantastic. So they have that. They also have a coffee machine up there, which was where I chose to drink coffee because their coffee machine made decent coffee. It wasn't like percolated coffee, which for an American cruise line is common because a lot of Americans drink the percolated coffee, whereas we don't see that as much here in Australia. They also had constant concierge team on the go. So there were generally 3 of them on shift at any given time, and they were amazing. They were so good at helping with things. So we had an issue prior to boarding around me being able to book things through the Disney app. I had organized my trip through a travel agent. I paid them. The travel agent paid a third party who paid Disney, and there was lag time. And in that lag time, a whole heap of stuff came up that you could book, like the Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique, which I wanted to take my daughter to so that she could dress like a princess, and a high tea for the kids. And all of that came up and was sold out before that process of everybody getting paid in the chain happened. And I was really upset by that. So there's a concierge phone number that you can ring before you get on the boat. And my travel agent took over doing that for me. So she rang them and they were able to organize some of that stuff from America for me. So like the Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique was then able to be organized. The meeting the princesses was able to be organized. The high tea was still a problem when I got on the boat. They couldn't do anything from the States for me. So when I got on, I mentioned it to the concierge team and they had it fixed. Like we had seating for that in like 24 hours. So that was fantastic. My daughter lost her little handbag one night, little Elsa handbag. There must have been 400 of those handbags on board. No, like it was just, they were everywhere. But she left it at Triton's on our first night at dinner in the restaurant, and I was like, well, it's gone now, we're never going to see it again. And I just made mention of it to the concierge team when I was up there getting coffee, and he's like, stay here. And dead set, 10 minutes later, he was back with my daughter's handbag. And I was like, that's amazing that you were able to find that. He's like, it's in Lost and Found. I just went and grabbed it. I was like, fantastic. So I was really grateful for that. Because my suite had just been upgraded in the October and it hadn't done a lot of trips, apparently there can be a lot of movement in things within a boat. I'm not a marine person. It's my first time doing a cruise since I was a teenager, but things move clearly. And on my first night on board, there was this, about 3 a.m., there was this large snap sound and then this horrible sound for the rest of the night. It just kept me up all night, and I was just like, I cannot do 3 nights like this. So I went to the concierge lounge and I said, listen, this is the situation, it's really loud. And he said, is it still happening now? I said, absolutely it is. He's like, okay, go grab a coffee, sit down, I'm going to take care of it. So within 5 minutes of me having that conversation with him, there were 3 people in my suite. I think it was the head of housekeeping, the head of maintenance, and someone else were all in my suite. They assessed it. Before I'd even finished my coffee, I had the head of maintenance standing in front of me, and he's like, can I have your suite for 2 hours? You choose a time, we need 2 hours, we're going to fix it. Something's come loose. And I was like, sure, we're going to the pool anyway, that's fine. And by the time I got back, I could see they'd cut a hole in the roof, they'd fixed whatever it is, patched the hole. It's like no one had ever been, and there was no sound. And they had that fixed straight away. I was so impressed with the level of service that we got from everybody. All staff on board a Disney ship. I could not fault a single staff member, and I'm fairly picky, and I couldn't fault anyone, but the concierge team were phenomenal in getting stuff done. So if you're on a concierge level, it is well worth the money to get the extra help. I was so impressed with it all. Food. There is so much food. So when we got on board, so getting on board is its own experience. It's fabulous. Like they announce you and the staff clap and there's characters and it's so amazing. And I'm standing there looking at these staff members going, if you're going to stand there for 4 hours clapping, you need a raise because that's hard work, because every family gets announced and they clap them in, and it's a great experience for the kids. It's so nice. And anyone who's on a concierge level gets taken straight into Triton's, which is, I think, the finest dining restaurant we went to on board. We went to 3 of the restaurants because we did 3 nights and it's rotational dining. So you eat a different restaurant every night. And we did lunch at Triton's that day. So they put you in Triton's and they feed you lunch, like a proper sit down lunch. And the concierge team move around the tables and talk to you about what's available to you, how the concierge service works, priority seating for any shows, anything you need. So they move around the tables while they feed you. So that was a fantastic experience. And that was pretty much the only sit down lunch that we did the whole time we were on, because it was the first thing we did. Rotational dining is fantastic. I'm a massive fan of it. I decided I'm generally someone who likes routine. I'll eat the same thing all the time and go to the same places. I loved the rotational dining. Each of the different restaurants was its own experience. My kids loved it. We ate at Triton's the first night, which, like I said, is a bit more fine dining. There wasn't a show happening, but it was very, very nice. Great food. Could not fault any of the food. And all food is included. So you get appetizers, entrees, and desserts. And I think that's how America works. In Australia, we get entrees, mains, and desserts. So you could choose anything you wanted. You could eat as much or as little as you wanted. So I don't eat very much. I've had gastric sleeve surgery. So I would generally just choose a main, and that would be it. But if you want to get on board and eat every single entree, every single main, and every single dessert, you can do that. They will absolutely let you do that. My kids, the kids' meals are fantastic. They make sure they come out first. We did an early seating, so we did the 5:15 seating, simply because I knew my kids weren't going to make it to the 8 whatever seating without being starving and tired and cranky. So we did an early seating, and my parents were kind enough to adapt for that because it was very early for them. And so they would bring out the kids' meals first, so the kids aren't like sitting there going, when am I going to eat? They were always on a Mickey Mouse tray. Everything was thought about, down to, do you want tomato sauce for that? My kids like, yeah. So they make the tomato sauce into Mickey ears on their plate. I'm like, attention to detail. Oh my God, the attention to detail was phenomenal. And then my kids got 2 desserts every night, because you get the same servers. So even though you eat at 3 different restaurants, your servers move with you. So you get to know them really well. So these people just took such good care of my kids. They can have another ice cream. I was like, sure, why not? So it was just fantastic. So we ate at Triton's the first night, and then the second night was Animator's Palette, which was amazing. Like, you do drawings and then they animate them while you sit there, and they do shows on how animation works. My son, who loves to draw and is quite creative, was blown away with it. He loved it. And my daughter had just come off Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique, so she was dressed as Jasmine, and she was falling asleep on my lap. She was so tired. Even she was like, this is cool. So yeah. And then the last night we had Tiana's Place. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And that was very New Orleans based, and there was dancing and a show, and there was music playing. And yeah, I could not fault any of the dinners we had. For lunch every day, we were at the pool most of the time. My kids just wanted to play in the pool. They love pools, they love water. So we would do that. And so there's like little cafes around, and all the food is free. It's all included. So I'd give them hot dogs or burgers or fruit. There were always healthy options available. There's tea, coffee, soft drink, water stations, so you can go help yourself to as much as you want. Staff are always there cleaning up. Fresh towels by the pool. But yeah, just food on tap. Like, whatever you want, it's there for you. You can get it. There is also Cabanas, which is where we had breakfast every morning. My children are early risers, so they were up at the crack of dawn. The first morning they were up, it was like there was a 4 at the start of the number, and I'm like, go back to bed. But that's the problem when you've got 2 kids who don't share a room. Suddenly sharing a room, one wakes the other one up. Not good. So we ate at Cabanas for breakfast every morning, because they open, I think, about 6:30. So I'd get my kids up, get them dressed. We were up anyway, and then I'd take them up, and it's a buffet. And oh my God, is it a buffet? Oh my God, so much food. So they have the famous Mickey Mouse waffles shaped like the ears. They've got 3 different types of pancakes. They've got all the bacons. They've got all the eggs. They've got eggs in every style. They've got cereal. They've got yogurt. They've got fruit. They've got bagels. They've got pastries. You name it, it's there. There is so much food. And my children were just like, oh, I can have anything. I was like, go nuts, kid, it's fine. So yeah, it was just great. The coffee that was there was like percolator out of it wasn't great coffee from there, but there are certainly other options on board if you need your morning coffee, and I'd have one of their coffees and then I'd go get a good one from the concierge lounge. So just so much food. There is also room service. I did not use room service, but room service is also included in your price. So if you order food through room service, it's also included in the price. I don't know how you pay for food. I don't think there is any food on board that you will pay for at any point, unless you go to, I think there was one specialist restaurant, and obviously I didn't go, I had the kids, that's more adults only, that you can book, and they, you know, it's a la carte and high, you know, much more fine dining. I think you pay for that, and I think there are probably some coffee options available in where the adult section is, that is pay for, and alcohol. You pay for alcohol. So they're the things you pay for. But in general, food terms, you can get on and eat from the time you get on to the time you get off, and it costs you nothing, and it's fabulous, fabulous food. I was so impressed. Pools were fantastic as well. We spent most of our days by the pool. My children love to do that, and I was happy just to sit out in the sun and get a bit of a tan. A bit of vitamin D is good for you. There was a water slide, and my kids were able to go on that on their own, and I took them up, each of them up the first time. They went, I went, and then they were happy to do that on their own. There's a kids splash zone, so like things tip out and you stand underneath, and then there's water coming from here and water coming from there, and then there's a little plunge pool, which was probably only about that deep, and that's where I started with my kids, because they could do that. I could sit and just watch them. I didn't need to be in there. And then there's a bigger pool, a much deeper pool, and my kids were only allowed in that if myself or my stepfather got in with them. And they have life jackets. There's life jackets everywhere, so if your children aren't independent swimmers, and mine aren't, we could put them in that, and they would just have that extra protection so that they weren't going to drown. There are lifesavers everywhere. There are actual lifesavers, people standing around. Even in the plunge pool, which is that deep, there's two, or there's one. There's always someone around. They also blow a whistle for 10 minutes at the end of every hour, and it's called the toilet break, which is really smart. If you've got kids, you'll understand this. So for 10 minutes at the end of every hour, they force every child out of the pool, everyone out of the pool, and that's the toilet break. So they're trying to push parents to take their children to the toilet in that time so that they don't pee in the pool. Which I think is really smart. They're very clear about you can't have children in swimmer nappies or who aren't toilet trained, because I imagine pumping out a pool in the middle of the ocean and refilling it and getting it back to water levels that allow people to swim in it is really hard and time consuming, so they don't want that to happen. So they're very much all over that. It did get annoying getting the kids out for 10 minutes every hour, but I could most certainly see the philosophy behind it and how that worked, so I thought that was really clever. And there's toilets right nearby the pools, which is handy because my daughter goes 15 times an hour, and so many clean towels and just stuff everywhere. So the pools were fantastic, and I loved how many people were watching the children at any one time, even the adults, because I imagine for Disney, having a child drown on a Disney boat is their worst PR nightmare ever, and they are all over that. So I was stoked about that. High tea that we did with the kids, the royal high tea, it was amazing. Such attention to detail, characters on tap, princesses there were songs. The high tea itself was amazing. I think I have a picture of some of the cookies, so I'll insert that. Attention to detail is everywhere on this boat. I have no words to explain how amazing it's just Disneyfied to the nth degree, but not to the point where you feel like you're on overload. They do it very, very well. Shows. We didn't do a lot of the shows. We did the Frozen stage show because it was at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And we had priority seating for that. So that was a daytime show, and it was like Broadway production show. It was really impressive, but that was the only show we did. My kids really loved it, but a lot of the shows were later at night. So the nighttime Marvel shows and sail away parties and fireworks displays, they all start at 10:30 at night. Now, I understand why they do that. They say, oh, we need to be far enough out to sea, especially for the sail away party, before we set off fireworks and that kind of stuff. I'm like, cool. But what I can see they're actually doing is catering for the second seating of dinner. So seating 1 starts at, I think, 5:15 and seating 2 starts at 8:15. A seating goes to 2 hours. So 8:15 goes to 10:15. And so if they start the show at 10:30, it allows people from the second seating to make it to the show. If you're in the first seating with kids, but it's so late. I worked out fairly quickly that other parents were putting their children to bed in the afternoons and they were having naps. My children don't do that. My children, I don't talk about my children a lot on this channel or in general publicly. I don't feel that that's my right to do that, but they don't deal with changes in routine well. That's just who they are. And there are reasons for that. So I don't like to change their routine too much if I don't have to. And we were already on a boat. It was a whole new experience for them. There was a lot going on. They were on overdrive as it was. So I really didn't want to add in, let's teach you to nap in the afternoon so you can make it to the nighttime show that honestly you don't know what's happening. And then when we get home, I'm going to have to deal with fixing that on the other side. I've put you through hell and me through hell for 3 nights on a Disney cruise so you can watch some nighttime shows. I couldn't do it to them and I couldn't do it to me. So we didn't do any of those nighttime ones, but I hear that they were amazing and just fantastic production and brilliant. I didn't even hear the fireworks, I've got to say, and that impressed me in itself. So because we were on level 8 and the deck where all those nighttime shows happen is deck 9, I thought that I would at least hear fireworks or dancing or something. We were in like middle of the boat, so we were pretty much underneath where it was happening, and I didn't hear a thing. So I was really impressed with that. My kids just slept through the night. They didn't know any better and they were up early the next day. So there is that option if your children are a bit more flexible that you should put them to bed during the afternoon. Maybe they have a short nap, before dinner and then you push through. However you want to organize your family, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So we just dealt with that. And I don't feel like we missed out on anything. I don't feel like I came back and went, oh, like that made it less worth it. I chose it. Like I was okay with it. But the shows are phenomenal. The characters are brilliant. So there are lots of characters on board. They are so well trained. They stay in character. They are brilliant with the children. I have a strong background in early education. It's my area of expertise, and the way these characters dealt with children and special needs people, I was so impressed. They are so well trained. So I believe there's something called the Disney Hug Rule, and it's about they don't let go first. And I think that's a fantastic rule. Even as somebody who is a massive advocate for child protection, and adults hugging children often makes me uncomfortable, if the children engage in it first, then I can most certainly see how important that is for that child to have that recognition of being hugged back, and they don't let go first. So for a child who's so excited to meet this character that they idolize, and to have them hug them and not let go, it was just amazing to watch. It really was such a wholesome, happy, warm feeling that went with that. So I was so impressed with the characters. They were brilliant. They stayed in characters. They were engaging. They asked questions. They engaged my children and all the children on board. And I've got to say, engaging with children can be really hard sometimes. So you say, how's your day been? And you get this answer out of left field that has nothing to do with the topic that you're on, and you've got to roll with it sometimes. And you're like, I asked you how the pool was and you're telling me about something that happened 3 days ago. It has nothing to do with that. These characters were so good at just having a conversation with this child, which might not be on the topic they thought it was going to be on or where it started, and just running with it. They were phenomenal. My only negative feedback is that to do the meets, like we had a meet and greet with the princesses that was booked in, so that was really easy to navigate and didn't stand in line for hours. And we did the high tea, which was also characters. You got to meet them and have conversation with them and have photos with them, so that was great. The rest of the characters are all set up around the boat at different times, and you stand in line to meet them. Now, my understanding of this is that Disney did not foresee how Australians were going to be about meeting the characters. So I stood in line to meet Daisy Duck with my children for over an hour. And that was such a long time. The children were not happy about standing in line for that amount of time. And I said to the concierge team, like, seriously, charge me $1,000 a child and put all the characters in a room, take all their photos one after the other so I can tick it off, and I will pay you money to do it so I don't have to stand in lines, because we wasted hours standing in lines meeting characters. And my children just weren't up for it. Like, at one point, they're on the floor over there rolling around. Like, they don't want to stand in line for that amount of time, and it's wasting our time on the boat. But I do want to meet the characters because it's part of being on a Disney cruise. The concierge team said to me that the Disney line had not foreseen how Australians were going to be. So in America, Disney exists. Disney's a thing. You go to Disneyland. You have Disneyland, you have Disney World, there's even Euro Disney, there's Disney in Japan, I think. There's other Disneys. Australia doesn't have any of it. We have Disney Channel, we have Disney streaming services, and we have Disney stores, but we don't have that experience of meeting the characters. It's not something we get here. We get Disney on Ice, and even that is very, very big when it comes here. So they didn't foresee that Australians were going to want to spend so much time meeting these characters, because in the States, I imagine on a cruise line, you're picky about which characters you need to go see, because you might have already been to Disneyland a few times in your life and you've met characters, or you've done a few cruises, or you have access to it. You have much more access to it than we have here in Australia. So once they got down here and they realized that we are so starved for Disney characters that people will line up for hours, meet and greets were scheduled for 15 minutes. Those characters were there for like 2 hours. Like, they couldn't leave because the line was so long. There's definitely been conversation, they tell me, around doing more meet and greets, and they added more meet and greets during their first maiden season. And I imagine they will tweak that even more when they come back for the next season. There's also talk around the concierge team putting together meet and greets in the concierge lounge. So just those who are on a concierge level have the access to meet the characters, which means cuts down on the lines on both sides for us in the concierge level, and also for those who aren't on a concierge level, because if you take all those people out, there's a less line. But that's certainly something that they've had to now go back and look at, and how that translates in Australia. But that was my only gripe. That was the only downside that I found in the entire trip, was the standing in line. But as a parent, I've got to say, these were my people. The people on this cruise were my people. So, like, my children are laying over there rolling around on the floor because they're sick of standing in line. I was not judged once. There was not a single parent standing around me looking at my children, rolling their eyes, thinking, oh my God, like, there wasn't a single adult around me acting like that. Not even grandparents or, anyone else who was on board. Nobody judged me or my children because they were getting a little bit ratty because they'd been standing in line for an hour. Because everybody there had an understanding that it's a cruise where there's going to be a lot of children, and most of the people on there are a parent with children themselves. So they don't judge the other parents because they've got their own problems. There was one day I left my kids with my parents up at the pool, and I had to go down to level 4 to do something. So I walked the stairs rather than use the lift. And on every level, there was a parent like having a go at a child. It was like, you will behave yourself while we're on this trip, or we're going to go back to the room. And I was like, Yep, I feel you. I was there. I am there. I'm there on a regular basis, or on the next level. You are so ungrateful. Do you know how lucky you are to have this experience? And I'm like, yep. So there's no judgment. As a parent on a cruise with lots of other parents, you feel recognized and seen. And I loved that. It was my tribe. This was a boat of people who understood. And even if they weren't there with their own children, even if they were an adult cruising on a Disney line without children, and there were lots of them, and you can love Disney at any age, and I support you in that, They didn't judge because they knew what they were getting themselves into. They were getting on a cruise line that caters for families and lots of children. They knew, so there's no judgment. And it was just so nice to have that feeling of, oh, you all understand me. You understand that children aren't always perfect. You understand that sometimes they mess up, or they get rowdy, or they get ratty, or they're just painful sometimes. You understand me. You understand why I'm at my wit's end, or I'm losing it right now, or, you know, they got it. And that was so nice. Merchandise. So I bought a lot of merchandise. Was it overpriced? I didn't think so. I actually thought that Disney would be much more expensive than it was. I think these were about $30 something. These are the Australian ones, and I got a few sets of ears, I've got to say. And I found the merchandise store was probably a little bit less than what I thought it was going to be in terms of pricing, but it wasn't cheap. It was Disney, but I didn't find like it was super inflated in terms of pricing, which I really appreciated, because my children had money from Christmas from both sets of grandparents, and I gave them money as well. And yeah, I just let them go nuts essentially, and they still didn't spend everything that they took. So I was really happy with it. And I let them buy whatever they want. So the fact that they couldn't spend it all says something about the pricing. Like, it wasn't that bad. The merchandise shops, the shops don't open while you're in port, so just keep that in mind. You've got to be at sea, and because we were in port like until we left, and then when you get back, and then when you're in Eden, like it did get a little hard sometimes to, I'm just gonna go to the shops, oh, it's not open. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. You can't buy something on the ship unless the ship is out to sea. So yes, there are lots of parents and children on board. I've got to say, I was most impressed with Disney's ability to cater for different age groups. So my parents certainly weren't the only grandparents that were on board this ship. There were lots of families that had multi-generational they were multi-generation families traveling together. So grandma and the next set of grandparents, and then the children of those parents, and then their children. Like, there were 4 generations in some families. There were 3 generations in lots of families, mine included. There were a lot of people with additional needs on board. So they might be, there were physical additional needs, but there were also lots of children or young adults, or even adults who were on the spectrum who were there. And Disney just did such a good job. I cannot fault how well they treated every guest, how much they catered for those with additional needs, how much they worked with each family individually if they did need extra help, how much they worked with the elderly who might need extra help getting around. I could not fault anything to do with customer service on this ship. It was amazing. So if you are a family who has additional needs, people in your family, and you want to do a Disney cruise, go nuts. You will be taken care of. They are so well trained for it. I was so impressed with it. And then in terms of any other things that I thought needed to be looked at by Disney, so it was really just the character meet and greets and standing in line. Other than that, I tried hard. I tried really hard to fault them and find fault, because I'm like, this is not a luxury thing. And you know what? It was really a luxury thing. I could not find a single other fault with Disney. Couldn't do it. Yes, it's not cheap. I appreciate that. It was not a cheap cruise, not by any stretch of the imagination. So my 3 nights in a 2-bedroom suite with my 2 children, so there was only the 3 of us. My husband stayed here on land and I took my children, not including my parents' 1-bedroom suite. I paid over $20,000 Australian for those 3 nights, which is a phenomenal amount of money. Phenomenal. And I told everyone who I could before I left about this stupid amount of money I was spending to take my children on a 3-night Disney cruise. How stupid was that? Once in a lifetime. Never do it again. This is ridiculous. Why would I spend this amount of money? I could fly to Disney World for that. Why on earth would I spend it? You know what? my next cruise is booked. They got me. They got me. I'm going back. We're doing 4 nights in January 2025 because we loved it so much. I tried to do 6 nights, but I couldn't make the dates work with work and my parents. So we're doing 4 nights, and I would Disney cruise over and over and over again. It was brilliant. There was nothing I missed as somebody who is used to traveling in 5-star style. I travel first class. I travel in 5-star hotels. I didn't have a single thing where I went, oh, well, that wouldn't happen in a 5-star hotel. Oh, well, where is this or where's that? Not a single thing I could fault. I had everything I expect from a luxury holiday on my Disney cruise. Yep, couldn't fault it. I got to travel with people who understood me, who didn't judge me. I was in a beautiful room. I had concierge service, constantly had people there to take care of my needs. I had more food than you could poke a stick at. I paid for the alcohol, which I was happy to do. Now, I understand other cruise lines do alcohol packages. Disney does not. If you want to drink alcohol, you buy it by the glass or the bottle of wine. I did drink cocktails on board. There were about, I want to say $8 American dollars each, which I was fine with. I drank the cocktail of the day. The point of Disney is that they don't want you drunk. They don't want parents who are drunk, and they don't want adults who are drunk around children anyway. So even if you're on board and you don't have children, they don't want you drunk because they don't want you around the children. It's not a good look. It's a family cruise. So I understand their philosophy there, and I support it. That's fine. You can most certainly get drunk, but you're going to pay to do it. But I see what they're trying to do there with that discouragement of getting drunk, because that's not what they want for their cruises. And I'm all for it as a parent who has children. I don't necessarily want a whole heap of drunk people around my children. So I was fine with that. So yeah, the services, everything they have available, couldn't fault a thing. The only other note I'll make is around tipping. Australians don't tip. We don't understand. We don't get it. In Australia, people earn a living wage generally. Like, you earn the base wage in Australia is enough pretty much to get by on, although with inflation at the moment there's going to be lots of people who argue that point. I understand it's tough for a lot of people at the moment, but compared to the United States, we pay a much higher, like our base wage is like $22 an hour, I think. Like you can be working at Starbucks, if we had Starbucks, you can be working at the local coffee shop earning $22 an hour. But I understand in America, tipping is a thing that you get paid a much lower rate of pay and you earn tips on top of that. Tipping in Australia does exist, but on a much smaller scale. If you go out for a good meal, then you'll give a tip, but there's no expectation of that happening. And there's also no expectation of, is it 10%, is it 15%, is it 20%? We don't understand any of that. It's not our thing. Disney is an American cruise line. They expect you to tip. You can do prepaid gratuities, and they do help you with it. They give you slips of paper and they tell you how much you should be tipping each person, and that's built in. And then you can tip extra on top of that. But the whole system of these strips of paper come with these envelopes, and then you've got to put the strip of paper in the envelope, seal the envelope, put the person's name on it and hand it to that person before you get off the boat. Oh, too much. I was very confused. I was so confused. It took me an hour to work it out, and then I had to do my parents for them because they're like, I don't know what we're doing. And then I wanted to give extra money, so I had to go get another sheet of paper. So then I'm writing down extra tips that I wanted to give, and then that went through, and I wanted to make sure it went to the right people. And my mother said, well, next time we'll just take cash. And I said, yes, but a lot of these people are on these cruise ships and they're working here, but they want to get money home to their family. If we give them cash, there's no way for them to deposit into a bank account and get it home to them until they get off the cruise. And that's a whole nother problem. So I want them to have the money straight away, but then for me to be able to do that, there's a whole process. And I did my head in. So I've either got to really get better at that system. They've got to make the system easier, or I don't know how they fix it. If they can just find a way to make it easier for countries that aren't built around tipping, I'd really appreciate it, because it was right at the end. It's one of the last things you do. It's on the last night that they give you all this information, and you got to sort it out before you get off the boat the next morning. And my head wanted to explode, and I was just like, there's too much pressure. I can't do this. I need help. And the concierge team were great. They helped walk me through some of what I needed to do, but still, can we have it a little bit easier next time? Like handing the envelopes out to people even through me, it's not something I'm comfortable with. Here, let me give you your $20 tip, or for me, I gave an extra 100 to most people, like, because there was someone who earned like $9 in tips, and I'm like, that's not enough for cleaning my room. Here, have an extra $100. So yeah, it was a system that we're not familiar with, so it was something I did really struggle with, and maybe they can find a better way to do that for Australians. That'd be great. But seriously, if you're looking at doing a Disney cruise as a parent, or as somebody who is just a Disney enthusiast, or someone who has additional needs, adults in your family who love Disney, go nuts. I could not fault it. There was nothing I could fault about this trip that would not make me want to go back, that I couldn't look at and go, that was amazing. And it might be that I traveled at such a high level on the Disney line that gave me access to so many things. Everybody knew who we were. All the staff seemed to know who we were by name, including my children, which I was really impressed with. And yeah, I was just so impressed with the whole thing. I don't know what it's like at a lower level, but everybody looked happy. I didn't hear anybody complaining. There was no line at a desk, at a service desk anywhere, of people cranky about anything at all. Yeah, it was just, as an Australian who doesn't have a lot to do with Disney because it's not something we do growing up, and my parents certainly didn't have the money when I was growing up to take me to Disneyland. It was a rare occurrence. You would know anyone in your friend group who went to Disneyland, especially in my friend group where I grew up. None of us had money, so it's just not something you did. It was really rare, so it was just such a great experience, and I'm still talking about it now. It's like February, middle of February. I went at the beginning of January, and I still tell everybody who will listen how good it was. And I'm really excited to go back again. I've already talked to my parents about maybe we fly to Florida and do a bigger ship from there. I would cruise Disney for as long as my kids will do it. I think it's great. I'm also looking at Disney resorts. We're going to Hawaii, and we might stay at the Disney resort there. I think Disney do kids like nobody else. I think they do families. The service they provide to children and families is like nothing I have ever seen. I can see why they have world domination. Absolutely. So yeah, that was my take on my Disney cruise here in Australia. I hope that information has been helpful for some of you who might be looking at going on a Disney cruise. I hope it's nice to hear my trip. But if you are in Australia and you are looking at doing the Disney Wonder, go for it. So worth it. Go nuts, I say. So yeah, that was my wrap up of my Disney cruise. If you've liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below. It means a lot to a content creator when you hit that subscribe button. Please also hit the little bell notification so you know when I upload videos, which is usually twice a week, and sometimes I'll throw in an extra. I'll also throw out my Instagram handle for you so you can follow me over there. I put lots up in real time, lots around my collection and my day-to-day life and my travels. Whenever I travel, I put up all my photos of that, so please come follow me over there. I hope wherever you are in the world today, you are having a fabulous day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.